December 2008 was one of the coldest winters the city had seen in years. The kind of cold that cut through your jacket and made your bones ache. Jennifer Hayes pulled her coat tighter as she walked home from the hospital where she worked as a nurse. Her shift had been brutal. 12 hours of running between patients, dealing with emergencies, and barely having time to eat. All she wanted was to get home, take a hot shower, and collapse into bed. The street was mostly empty at this hour. It was past 11 at night, and most people had the good sense to stay indoors. Jennifer lived only 6 blocks from the hospital, and she'd made this walk hundreds of times before. She knew every crack in the sidewalk, every storefront, every alley. But tonight felt different somehow. The air seemed heavier, quieter. Even the usual sounds of the city felt muffled by the cold. She was about 2 blocks from home when she heard it. At first, she thought maybe she was imagining things. Her ears were numb from the cold, and the wind was playing tricks. But then she heard it again, a sound that made her stop dead in her tracks. It was crying. Not just any crying, but the desperate wail of a baby. Jennifer's heart started pounding. She looked around, trying to figure out where the sound was coming from. The street was lined with closed shops and dark windows. Then she noticed the narrow alley between 2 buildings. The crying was coming from there. Every instinct told her to be careful. Dark alleys at night weren't exactly safe places. But that crying, that sound went straight through her professional training and hit her somewhere deeper. She was a nurse. She'd spent years caring for babies in the pediatric ward. She couldn't just walk away. She pulled out her phone and turned on the flashlight, then carefully made her way into the alley. The crying got louder. Her light swept across trash bags and empty boxes until it landed on something that made her breath catch in her throat. Behind a large dumpster, barely visible, was a cardboard box. And inside that box was a baby. Jennifer rushed over, her hands shaking as she knelt down beside the box. The infant couldn't have been more than 6 months old. A little girl, wrapped in a thin blanket that was completely inadequate for this weather. The baby's lips had a bluish tint and her tiny body was trembling. Jennifer didn't even think. She immediately scooped the baby up, wrapping her own coat around the small body and holding her close. The baby's skin was ice cold, too cold. Jennifer's mind went into medical mode. This child was hypothermic. Every second counted. She fumbled for her phone with one hand while keeping the baby pressed against her chest, trying to warm her with her own body heat. Her fingers were shaking so badly she could barely dial 911. 911, what's your emergency? I found a baby, Jennifer said, her voice cracking. In an alley behind Fletcher Street. She's freezing. She's hypothermic. I need an ambulance right now. The dispatcher kept her on the line, asking questions, but Jennifer barely heard them. She was focused entirely on the tiny life in her arms. The baby's crying had weakened to small whimpers. That scared Jennifer more than the loud wailing. Weak cries meant the baby was getting worse. She rubbed the infant's back gently, talking to her in a soft, steady voice. It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe now. Help is coming. I've got you. You're going to be okay. Those 5 minutes waiting for the ambulance felt like an eternity. Jennifer paced back and forth at the entrance of the alley, keeping the baby moving, keeping her warm. She examined her as best she could in the dim light. The baby was severely malnourished. Her little cheeks were sunken, and Jennifer could feel her ribs through the thin clothing. How long had she been out here? Hours? Days? The thought made Jennifer feel sick. When the ambulance finally arrived, the paramedics jumped into action. They wrapped the baby in warming blankets and started checking her vitals. Jennifer gave them all the information she could, telling them exactly where and how she'd found the child. One of the paramedics asked if she was coming to the hospital with them. Jennifer didn't even hesitate. Of course she was going. At the hospital, Jennifer watched as the emergency team worked on the baby. They got her temperature up slowly and carefully. Too fast could be dangerous. They started an IV to get fluids and nutrients into her system. Jennifer stood to the side, still wearing her coat even though the hospital was warm. She realized she was still shaking and it had nothing to do with the cold anymore. A police officer arrived to take her statement. Jennifer told him everything she could remember. The time, the exact location, the condition of the baby. He asked if she'd seen anyone else around. She hadn't. The alley had been completely empty except for that box and the baby inside it. The officer told her they'd investigate, try to find out who had left the child there. Jennifer nodded, but her attention kept drifting back to the tiny patient in the warming bed. She should have gone home. Her shift was long over and she was exhausted. But something kept her rooted to that spot. She couldn't leave. Not yet, maybe not ever. She watched as the nurses cleaned the baby up, checking for injuries or signs of abuse. Thankfully, aside from malnutrition and hypothermia, the baby seemed physically unharmed. That was something at least. Hours passed. Jennifer found herself in a chair next to the baby's bed in the pediatric intensive care unit. The little girl was sleeping now, finally warm and stable. Her color was better. She looked peaceful. Jennifer reached out and gently touched the baby's tiny hand. The infant's fingers curled around Jennifer's finger in that automatic reflex all babies have. Something inside Jennifer's chest cracked wide open. A social worker came by in the morning. She explained that the police were trying to find the baby's parents, but so far they had no leads. There had been no missing child reports that matched. No one had come forward. The baby would be placed in the foster care system once she was medically cleared. Jennifer listened to all of this with a growing sense of dread. The foster care system. She knew what that meant. She'd seen too many kids get lost in that system. What if someone wanted to foster her? Jennifer heard herself asking.
How would that work?
The social worker looked at her with a knowing expression. This probably wasn't the first time she'd had this conversation with someone who'd saved a child. She explained the process, the requirements, the home studies, and background checks. It wouldn't be easy or quick, but it was possible. Jennifer nodded slowly, still holding the baby's tiny hand. She left the hospital as the sun was coming up, finally going home to shower and change. But she couldn't stop thinking about that little face, that tiny hand wrapped around her finger. She'd saved a lot of lives in her career as a nurse. It was her job. But this felt different. This felt personal in a way she couldn't quite explain. Jennifer came back to the hospital later that day, bringing a small stuffed bear she'd bought at a store on the way. She sat with the baby again, talking to her softly even though the infant was too young to understand the words. Over the next few days, it became a routine. Jennifer would finish her shift and then go straight to the pediatric unit. She brought toys and blankets. She held the baby, fed her bottles, changed her diapers. The nurses started joking that Jennifer had adopted the baby already, even though the paperwork hadn't even started. And maybe she had. Maybe from that first moment in the alley when she'd held that freezing baby against her chest, something had been decided. Jennifer had always wanted children, but life had never quite worked out that way. She'd focused on her career and the years had slipped by. But now, holding this little girl, she felt like maybe this was meant to be. Maybe this was her chance. 2 weeks after finding the baby in the alley, Jennifer officially applied to become a foster parent. She knew it was fast, maybe too fast, but she also knew she couldn't let this child disappear into the system. She'd saved her life once. Now she wanted to give her a life worth saving. The foster care process felt like it took forever, even though the social worker kept telling Jennifer it was moving quickly. There were background checks, home visits, interviews, and mountains of paperwork. Jennifer filled out forms until her hand cramped. She attended parenting classes on her days off. She baby-proofed her apartment, installing outlet covers and cabinet locks. She painted the small second bedroom a soft yellow color and bought a crib, a changing table, and more baby clothes than any one infant could possibly need. Through it all, she visited the baby at the hospital every single day. The little girl was thriving now. She'd gained weight. Her cheeks had filled out and she smiled when Jennifer walked into the room. The nurses told Jennifer that the baby clearly recognized her. That simple fact made Jennifer's heart swell with something she'd never felt before. This tiny human knew her, trusted her, needed her. Finally, after what felt like an eternity but was actually only 6 weeks, Jennifer got the call. She'd been approved as a foster parent and she could take the baby home. Jennifer cried right there on the phone. Happy tears, overwhelmed tears, grateful tears. She called in sick to work the next day, something she never did, and spent the entire morning preparing. She washed all the baby clothes in gentle detergent, assembled the crib one more time to make sure it was perfect, and stocked up on diapers and formula. When she walked into the hospital to pick up the baby, Jennifer's hands were shaking again. But this time it was from excitement, not fear. The nurses had dressed the baby in a cute outfit donated by the hospital, and they'd made a little card signed by everyone in the pediatric unit. Good luck, little one, it said. Jennifer held the baby in her arms and felt the weight of responsibility settle over her. This was real. She was really doing this. The first few weeks were harder than Jennifer had expected. The baby woke up every 2 hours through the night. Jennifer walked around like a zombie, functioning on coffee and pure determination. She'd taken a leave of absence from the hospital to focus on bonding with her new daughter, because that's what Jennifer had started thinking of her as, her daughter. Even though the adoption wasn't final yet, even though technically she was still just a foster parent, in Jennifer's heart, this was her child. She needed to give the baby a name. The hospital staff had been calling her baby girl Doe, but that wasn't a real name. Jennifer spent days thinking about it, looking through baby name books and websites. She wanted something special, something meaningful. Finally, she settled on Lily. It was simple, beautiful, and fresh. A new beginning. Lily Hayes. Lily grew and changed so fast it amazed Jennifer. Every day brought something new. First smiles, then giggles. Then the day Lily reached for Jennifer's face with her tiny hands. Jennifer took hundreds of photos, documented every milestone in a journal. She wanted Lily to know her story someday. She wanted her to understand that she was loved from the very first moment, that she was wanted and cherished. The adoption process started when Lily was 8 months old. The police had never found any family members. No one had come forward to claim her. The case had gone cold, and the courts had terminated the unknown parent's rights. Jennifer's lawyer said it was a straightforward case, but Jennifer still worried. What if something went wrong? What if someone showed up at the last minute? She couldn't bear the thought of losing Lily now. But 18 months after finding Lily in that alley, Jennifer stood in a courtroom with her daughter in her arms and heard a judge declare the adoption final. Lily was legally hers. Jennifer Hayes was officially a mother. She cried so hard the judge had to pause the proceedings to hand her tissues. After the hearing, Jennifer took Lily out for ice cream, even though the baby was too young to really eat it. They sat in the park and Jennifer told Lily the story of how they'd found each other. "You were the bravest little girl," Jennifer said, bouncing Lily on her knee. "And now we're a family, forever." Life settled into a routine. Jennifer went back to work part-time and Lily started daycare. The separation was hard at first. Jennifer cried the first day she dropped Lily off, and she called the daycare 3 times just to check on her. But Lily adjusted quickly. She was a friendly, outgoing toddler who loved playing with other kids. The daycare teachers said she was a natural leader, always organizing the other children into games. As Lily grew older, Jennifer made sure to tell her the truth about how they'd come together. She never lied about being Lily's biological mother. She told Lily in age-appropriate ways that someone else had given birth to her, but that Jennifer had found her and loved her and chosen to be her mother. Lily seemed to understand as much as a young child could. She'd pat Jennifer's face and say, "You're my mama." And that was all Jennifer needed to hear. Lily started school and excelled immediately. She was bright, curious, and creative. Her teachers raved about her artwork. Lily could spend hours drawing and painting, creating elaborate scenes full of color and imagination. Jennifer hung every single piece on the refrigerator until there was no more room, then started a special folder to save them all. She was so proud of her daughter she could burst. But it wasn't all easy. Lily sometimes struggled with knowing she was adopted. Kids at school would ask questions, sometimes cruel ones. Why didn't her real mom want her? Where did she come from? Lily would come home upset, and Jennifer would hold her and explain again that being chosen was just as special as being born into a family. Maybe even more special, because it was a deliberate choice made out of love. "Your birth mother made sure you were found," Jennifer would say, not knowing how close to the truth she actually was. "And I found you and loved you from that very first night. We were meant to be together." Lily also started volunteering at a young age. When she was 12, she asked Jennifer if she could help at the local homeless shelter. Jennifer was surprised but proud. Lily explained that she wanted to help people who didn't have homes, because she knew what it was like to not have anywhere safe to go. Jennifer's heart nearly broke. Even though Lily had been too young to remember that night in the alley, somehow the experience had shaped her. She had compassion and empathy beyond her years. They volunteered together every weekend. Jennifer served food while Lily organized donations and played with children who came in with their families. People at the shelter loved them. They became fixtures there, the mother and daughter team who showed up rain or shine. Jennifer watched Lily interact with homeless kids, sharing toys and making them laugh, and she felt an overwhelming sense of pride. This was the girl she'd saved from the streets. Look what she'd become. High school brought new challenges. Lily was smart but easily bored in regular classes, so she got into advanced placement courses. She juggled school, art club, and her volunteer work. She had friends but was also comfortable being alone with her sketchbook. She had Jennifer's determination and work ethic, though Jennifer wasn't sure if that was nature or nurture.
Probably nurture, she thought.
They'd spent so many years together, just the two of them, that they'd become mirrors of each other in many ways. When Lily turned 16, Jennifer threw her a big party. All of Lily's friends came, and Jennifer made a slideshow of photos from over the years. Baby pictures, first day of school pictures, holiday photos. Jennifer had documented everything. She wanted Lily to know she'd always been loved, always been celebrated. At the end of the party, after everyone had gone home, Lily hugged Jennifer tight. "Thanks for everything, Mom," Lily said. "I know I wasn't born yours, but I'm glad I'm yours now." Jennifer hugged her back, tears in her eyes. "I'm the lucky one, sweetheart. You saved me just as much as I saved you." And Jennifer meant it. Before Lily, her life had been all work and routine. She'd been lonely without even realizing it. Finding Lily had given her purpose, had given her someone to love and live for. They'd built a beautiful life together. They had traditions like Sunday morning pancakes and Friday movie nights. They had inside jokes and favorite restaurants. They had each other. Jennifer felt like the luckiest person in the world. She'd been given an incredible gift that cold December night 16 years ago. She'd been given a daughter, a family, a whole new life. She never took it for granted. Every day she looked at Lily and felt grateful. She had no idea that everything was about to change. That the story she'd told herself for 16 years was only half true. That the woman who'd left Lily in that alley had her own heartbreaking story. That someday soon, a letter would arrive that would shake the foundation of everything Jennifer believed. But for now, in this moment, everything was perfect. Jennifer and Lily were happy, healthy, and together. They were a family. Nothing could change that. Or so Jennifer thought. She couldn't have known that the hardest test of her life and her love for Lily was coming. That soon she'd have to face the truth about that December night, and it would break her heart in ways she never imagined possible. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning when the letter arrived. Jennifer had already left for her shift at the hospital, and Lily was getting ready for school. She grabbed the mail on her way out, stuffing it into her backpack without really looking at it. Bills probably, and maybe some junk mail. She'd give it to her mom later. At school, between classes, Lily was digging through her backpack looking for her calculator when she saw the envelopes. She pulled them out, sorting through them quickly. Electric bill, credit card offer, and then something else. A handwritten envelope addressed to Jennifer Hayes with no return address. The handwriting was shaky, like whoever wrote it had been nervous or upset. Lily hesitated. She wasn't supposed to open her mom's mail, but something about this letter felt different. Important somehow. She turned it over in her hands, feeling the weight of it. There was something inside, multiple pages by the feel of it. Before she could think too hard about it, the bell rang for her next class, and she shoved everything back into her backpack. That evening, Lily handed Jennifer the mail while her mom was making dinner. Jennifer was stirring pasta sauce when she took the stack of envelopes. She flipped through them absently, tossing the junk mail in the recycling. Then she got to the handwritten envelope. She stopped stirring and just stared at it for a moment. "What is it, Mom?" Lily asked, noticing the change in her mother's expression. "I don't know," Jennifer said slowly. She set down the spoon and opened the envelope carefully. Inside were several handwritten pages and what looked like copies of official documents. Jennifer unfolded the letter and started reading. Lily watched her mother's face go pale. "Mom, what's wrong?" Jennifer didn't answer. She kept reading, one hand pressed against her mouth. Lily saw tears forming in her mother's eyes. Real fear shot through Lily then. She'd rarely seen her mom cry. "Mom, you're scaring me." "What is it?" Jennifer looked up at her daughter, and the expression on her face was something Lily had never seen before. Shock, pain, confusion, all mixed together. Jennifer sat down heavily at the kitchen table, still holding the letter. Lily sat across from her heart pounding. "There's someone," Jennifer started, then stopped. She looked at the letter again, as if hoping the words would change. They didn't. "There's a woman. She says she's your biological mother." The words hung in the air between them. Lily felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. Her biological mother? After all these years? She'd always known she was adopted, but the story had always been that she was abandoned. that whoever gave birth to her hadn't wanted her. And now suddenly there was someone claiming to be that person? What does she want? Lily asked, her voice coming out smaller than she intended. Jennifer looked at the letter again, scanning through the pages. She wants to explain what happened. She wants to meet you. Jennifer's voice cracked on the last word. They sat in silence for a long moment. The pasta sauce started to bubble over on the stove, but neither of them moved to stop it. Finally, Jennifer got up and turned off the burner. She came back to the table with the letter and the documents. "Do you want me to read it to you?" Jennifer asked. Lily nodded. She wasn't sure she could speak. Her whole world felt like it was tilting sideways. Jennifer took a deep breath and started reading aloud. The letter was from a woman named Diana Cruz. She wrote that she had been only 19 years old when Lily was born. She'd been living in a shelter for women fleeing domestic violence. Lily's father, Diana wrote, had been abusive, violent, dangerous. Diana had tried to leave him multiple times, but he always found her. When Diana got pregnant, things got worse. He didn't want a baby. He threatened to hurt them both. Diana was terrified but didn't know where to go or what to do. She gave birth at a free clinic, and for a few months she managed to keep the baby hidden from him. She stayed at the shelter and tried to keep herself and her daughter safe. But one December night, everything fell apart. He'd found out where she was staying. He'd been drinking, and he showed up at the shelter angry and violent. The shelter staff tried to stop him, but he pushed his way through. Diana heard the commotion and knew he was coming. She had seconds to make a decision. Jennifer's voice shook as she read Diana's words. "I knew if he found the baby, he would hurt her. Maybe kill her. I had to get her away from him. I wrapped her in every blanket I had and ran out the back door while he was fighting with the security guard. I knew the area. There was a hospital 6 blocks away. I ran toward it as fast as I could, but he caught up to me. He was chasing me, screaming. I was so scared." Lily felt tears running down her own face now. This wasn't the story she'd imagined. This wasn't abandonment. This was something else entirely. Jennifer continued reading. "I knew I couldn't make it to the hospital with him chasing me. He was too fast, too close, so I did the only thing I could think of. There was an alley and I could see light at the other end of it. I thought maybe there would be people, someone who could help. I hid the baby behind the dumpster and kept running. I thought if I could lead him away, I could come back for her. I thought I was saving her life." Jennifer had to stop reading. She was crying too hard. Lily reached across the table and took the letter from her mother's hands. She read the rest herself, her vision blurry with tears. Diana wrote that her plan had worked, but not the way she'd hoped. He caught her 2 blocks away from where she'd hidden the baby. The beating was severe. He broke her ribs, her arm, gave her a concussion. A passerby finally called the police, and an ambulance took Diana to the hospital. She was unconscious for 2 days. When she finally woke up and told the nurses about the baby, they thought she was hallucinating from the head injury. By the time Diana was able to get anyone to take her seriously, it had been almost a week. She went to the alley, but the baby was gone. She filed police reports. She went back to the shelter and asked everyone if they'd seen anything. No one had. The baby had vanished. Diana searched for years. She contacted every agency, every hospital, every organization she could find. But without knowing who had found the baby or where she'd ended up, the trail was cold. The letter explained that Diana had finally gotten away from the abusive relationship. She'd gone through years of therapy, gotten clean from the drugs she'd used to cope with the trauma, rebuilt her entire life, and she never stopped looking for her daughter. Last year, she'd saved enough money to hire a private investigator. The investigator found old news articles about an abandoned baby found behind Fletcher Street in December 2008. From there, he traced the foster care records and the adoption. It had taken Diana 16 years, but she'd finally found her daughter. And now she wanted the chance to explain, to apologize, to meet the child she'd been forced to leave behind. Attached to the letter were documents, medical records from the hospital showing Diana's injuries, police reports from that night, records from the domestic violence shelter, a restraining order against Lily's biological father. Everything Diana had claimed was documented, verified, real. Lily set down the letter and looked at her mom. Jennifer was staring at nothing, tears streaming down her face. Lily realized she was crying too. This changed everything. Every story she'd been told, every assumption she'd made about where she came from, Her birth mother hadn't abandoned her. She'd tried to save her. "Mom," Lily said softly. Jennifer looked up and the fear in her eyes broke Lily's heart. "She didn't throw me away. She was trying to protect me." "I know," Jennifer whispered. "Oh God, Lily, I know." They sat there together as the reality sank in. Somewhere out there was a woman who'd been searching for Lily for 16 years. A woman who'd never stopped being her mother, even though she'd been forced to give her up. A woman who'd made an impossible choice in an impossible situation. "What do we do?" Lily asked. Jennifer wiped her eyes and looked at her daughter. The daughter she'd raised. The child of her heart, even if not her blood. "That's up to you, sweetheart. This is your story, your decision. If you want to meet her, I'll support you. If you don't, I'll support that too." But Lily could see the fear behind her mother's words. Fear that meeting Diana would change their relationship. Fear that Lily might choose her biological mother over the woman who'd raised her. Fear of losing the daughter she'd loved for 16 years. "You're still my mom," Lily said firmly. "Nothing changes that. You raised me. You're the one who was there for everything. But I think I need to know the whole story. I need to understand where I came from." Jennifer nodded, even though Lily could see how much it cost her. "Then we'll reach out to her. Together." That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Diana. About that desperate night, about a young mother making an impossible choice. She thought about her mom, Jennifer, who'd found her and saved her and given her a life. Two mothers, both who'd loved her in their own ways. Both who'd saved her life. The next morning, Jennifer composed a careful email to the address Diana had included in her letter. They agreed to meet in 2 weeks at a coffee shop. Neutral ground. Public but private enough for difficult conversations. As the days passed, Lily felt like she was waiting for something huge. Something that would change her understanding of herself forever. She was right. Nothing would ever be quite the same again. The 2 weeks between the letter and the meeting felt like the longest of Jennifer's life. She went through the motions at work, taking care of patients and filling out charts, but her mind was somewhere else. At home, things felt strained in a way they never had before. Jennifer and Lily were both processing the revelation, but they were doing it separately, each afraid to say the wrong thing to the other. Jennifer found herself thinking about Diana constantly. She'd read the letter at least 20 times, studying every word, examining the documents over and over. The hospital records showed injuries consistent with severe domestic violence. The police report described a brutal assault. The shelter records confirmed Diana had been living there with an infant. Everything checked out. Everything was true, and that truth was destroying Jennifer in a way she hadn't expected. For 16 years, Jennifer had built her identity around being Lily's savior. The woman who'd rescued an abandoned baby from certain death. The mother who'd stepped up when no one else wanted the child. It was a story that made sense, a story that made Jennifer feel good about herself. Noble, even. She was the hero in that story. But Diana's letter had rewritten everything. Suddenly, Jennifer wasn't the hero. She was just the person who'd been in the right place at the right time. The real story was about a terrified young mother who'd made an impossible choice to save her daughter's life. Diana was the one who'd sacrificed everything. Diana was the one who'd spent 16 years searching, never giving up hope. Jennifer felt ashamed of how she'd thought about Lily's birth mother all these years. She'd assumed abandonment, neglect, maybe drug addiction or mental illness. She'd created a story in her head about someone who didn't care, someone who'd thrown their baby away like garbage. She'd been wrong about all of it. Late at night, when Lily was asleep, Jennifer would sit in the kitchen and cry. She cried for Diana, for the hell that young woman had endured. She cried for Lily, who had to process this traumatic origin story. But if Jennifer was being honest with herself, she also cried for herself, for the loss of the simple story she'd believed, for the fear that was eating her alive. What if Lily wanted to live with Diana? What if, after meeting her biological mother, Lily decided that was where she really belonged? What if 16 years of love and care couldn't compete with biological connection? Jennifer knew these thoughts were selfish, but she couldn't stop them. Lily was her whole world. The thought of losing her was unbearable. Jennifer tried to talk to her friends about it, but she couldn't quite explain the complexity of what she was feeling. They said things like, "She'll always be your daughter, and you're the one who raised her, and biology isn't everything." They meant well, but their reassurances felt hollow. Jennifer smiled and nodded and changed the subject. She considered canceling the meeting a dozen times. Maybe it was better not to know Diana, not to make this real. Maybe they could just go back to how things were before. But deep down, Jennifer knew that was impossible. The letter had changed everything already. There was no going back. Lily was processing things differently. She spent hours online, researching domestic violence, reading survivor stories, trying to understand what her birth mother had gone through. She looked at her own baby pictures with new eyes, knowing now what had happened just hours before those photos were taken, the trauma behind her smile, the fear that had led to her rescue. She was angry too, though she couldn't quite articulate at whom. Angry at her biological father for being violent. Angry at a system that hadn't protected Diana better. Angry at the universe for putting Diana in that impossible situation. Sometimes, in her darkest moments, she was even a little angry at Diana for not finding her sooner. She knew that wasn't fair, but emotions rarely are. Lily also found herself watching Jennifer more carefully. She noticed the sadness in her mom's eyes, the way Jennifer would start to say something and then stop herself. Lily wanted to reassure her, but she didn't know what to say. Because truthfully, Lily didn't know how she was going to feel when she met Diana. She was terrified that meeting her birth mother would somehow diminish what she had with Jennifer. But she was also terrified that if she didn't meet Diana, she'd regret it forever. The day of the meeting arrived cold and gray, threatening rain. Jennifer had taken the day off work. She'd changed her outfit 3 times, which was ridiculous, but she couldn't help it. "What do you wear to meet the woman who gave birth to your daughter?" The woman who'd been searching for her for 16 years? They drove to the coffee shop in silence. Lily stared out the window, watching the city pass by. Jennifer gripped the steering wheel so tight her knuckles were white. When they pulled into the parking lot, they both sat in the car for a moment. "We don't have to do this," Jennifer said, even though she knew they did. "We can leave right now if you want." Lily shook her head. "I need to know." They walked into the coffee shop together. Diana had said she'd be at a table in the back corner. Jennifer scanned the room and spotted her immediately. A woman in her mid-30s with dark hair and nervous hands. She was sitting alone, staring at the door. When she saw them enter, she stood up so fast she almost knocked over her chair. For a moment, the 3 of them just stared at each other. Diana's eyes were fixed on Lily, drinking in every detail. Tears were already streaming down her face. Lily stood frozen, looking at this stranger who was somehow familiar. They had the same eyes, Jennifer realized. The same shape to their face. "Lily," Diana whispered. It wasn't a question, she knew. After 16 years, she knew her daughter. They sat down, Diana on one side of the table, Jennifer and Lily on the other. It felt oddly formal, like a business meeting rather than a reunion. Diana couldn't stop staring at Lily, tears continuing to fall. "You're so beautiful," Diana said, her voice choked with emotion. "You're so grown up. I've missed everything." "Tell us what happened," Jennifer said, her voice steadier than she felt. The whole story. So Diana did. She told them everything, starting from the beginning. She'd met Lily's father when she was 18. He'd seemed charming at first, but the charm hid something dark. The first time he hit her, Diana had been shocked. He'd apologized, cried, promised it would never happen again. But it did. Again and again. By the time Diana realized she was pregnant, she was trapped. She had no money, no family to turn to, nowhere to go. She tried to hide the pregnancy from him, but eventually he found out. He was furious. He didn't want a child. He told Diana she needed to get rid of it. When she refused, the violence got worse. Diana managed to leave him when she was 7 months pregnant. She found the shelter and thought she was safe. She gave birth at a free clinic, and for a few precious months she had her baby girl. She named her Sophia, though she knew Diana might never get to use that name. "Sophia," Lily repeated softly. "That was my name?" Diana nodded. "It means wisdom. I wanted you to be wiser than I was. I wanted you to make better choices." She continued the story, describing that terrible night in December. How he'd found the shelter. How Diana had grabbed Sophia and run. How she'd made the impossible choice to hide her baby and lead him away. "I thought I was being smart," Diana said, her voice breaking. "I thought if I could just get him away from you, I could come back. But he was so angry, so violent. I don't remember a lot of it. The doctor said I was lucky to survive." Jennifer felt her own tears falling as she listened. This wasn't a story of abandonment. This was a story of a mother's love, of sacrifice. of doing the only thing possible in an impossible situation. When I woke up in the hospital and realized what had happened, I thought I was going to die, Diana continued. The pain of losing you was worse than anything he'd done to my body. I searched for you. For years I searched. I never stopped looking. I never stopped being your mother. Lily was crying now too. I'm sorry, she said. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Don't apologize, Diana said quickly. None of this was your fault. I just want you to know that I didn't leave you because I didn't want you. I left you because I wanted you to live. They talked for hours. Diana told them about her life over the past 16 years, how she'd gotten away from Lily's father, how she'd worked through years of therapy, how she'd put herself through community college and now worked as a counselor for domestic violence survivors, how she'd never married, never had other children, because she couldn't move on from the daughter she'd lost. Jennifer found herself feeling a strange mixture of emotions: respect for Diana's strength, admiration for her perseverance, and underneath it all a deep, aching fear, because watching Diana and Lily together, seeing their similar mannerisms and expressions, Jennifer couldn't ignore the biological bond between them. As the coffee shop started to close for the evening, they finally prepared to leave. Diana looked at Jennifer for the first time with full attention. Thank you, Diana said simply. Thank you for finding her. Thank you for taking care of her. Thank you for giving her the life I couldn't. Jennifer nodded, not trusting herself to speak. What could she say? You're welcome for raising your daughter. It felt absurd. In the car on the way home, Lily was quiet. Jennifer didn't push, just drove through the darkening streets. Finally, as they pulled into their driveway, Lily spoke. That was really hard. Yeah, Jennifer agreed. It was. I don't know what to do now. I don't know what this means. Jennifer took a deep breath. It means you have two mothers who love you. It means your story is more complicated than we thought. But it doesn't have to change us, Lily. Not if you don't want it to. But even as Jennifer said the words, she wondered if they were true. Everything had already changed. The question now was what they would build from the ruins of the story they'd believed. The weeks after the meeting were some of the most difficult of Jennifer's life. Lily started texting with Diana, having phone calls with her, learning about each other. Jennifer supported it because she knew it was the right thing to do, but it hurt in ways she hadn't anticipated. Every time Lily's phone buzzed and she smiled at a message from Diana, Jennifer felt a small crack form in her heart. She tried to hide it. She smiled when Lily talked about Diana's work with domestic violence survivors. She nodded when Lily mentioned that Diana loved art too, that maybe that's where Lily got her talent from. She even suggested that Lily could meet Diana again if she wanted to. But late at night, alone in her room, Jennifer let herself fall apart. She felt like she was losing her daughter in slow motion. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Every connection Lily made with Diana felt like something taken away from Jennifer. It was irrational, she knew that. Love wasn't a finite resource. But knowing something logically and feeling it emotionally were two different things. One evening, about a month after the first meeting, Jennifer was doing dishes when Lily came into the kitchen. She'd just gotten off the phone with Diana and she looked troubled. Mom, can we talk? Jennifer's heart clenched. This was it. This was the conversation she'd been dreading. Lily was going to say she wanted to spend more time with Diana, or maybe even that she wanted to live with Diana. Jennifer dried her hands slowly, preparing herself for the worst. They sat at the kitchen table, the same table where they'd first read Diana's letter. Lily was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. I've been thinking a lot, Lily started. About everything. About Diana and what happened. About you and how you found me. About what family means. Jennifer braced herself. Okay. I know this has been hard for you, Lily said, looking directly at her mother. I can see it, even though you try to hide it. You're scared I'm going to choose Diana over you. Jennifer felt tears forming. She tried to speak, but Lily held up a hand. Let me finish. I need to say this. Lily took a deep breath. Diana is my biological mother. That's a fact. She gave birth to me, and she made an impossible choice to try to save my life. I respect that. I'm grateful for it, and I want to know her, to have her in my life. But Mom, she's not my mother. Not in the way that matters. Jennifer's tears spilled over. Lily, you're my mother, Lily said firmly. You're the one who was there when I was sick. You're the one who taught me to read and helped me with homework and held me when I was scared. You chose me every single day for 16 years. That's what makes you my mom. Not biology, choice. Jennifer was crying too hard to speak now. Lily got up and came around the table, wrapping her arms around Jennifer. I love you, Mom. Meeting Diana doesn't change that. Nothing changes that. They held each other and cried together. All the fear and tension that had been building for weeks finally released. When they finally pulled apart, Jennifer wiped her eyes. I was so scared, Jennifer admitted. I know it's selfish, but I was terrified of losing you. You're not going to lose me, Lily said. But I do want Diana in my life. Is that okay? Jennifer nodded. Of course it's okay. She's part of your story. I just needed to know that I'm still part of it too. You're not just part of it, Lily said. You're the main character. After that conversation, things got easier. Jennifer felt more secure, and that security allowed her to be more generous. She suggested that Diana could come to their house for dinner. It was awkward at first having Diana in the home where Jennifer had raised Lily, but it also felt right in a strange way. Over dinner, Jennifer and Diana talked for the first time, really talked. Not just about Lily, but about themselves. Diana told Jennifer about her work, how helping other domestic violence survivors gave her a sense of purpose. Jennifer told Diana about nursing, about the satisfaction of helping people heal. I never got to thank you properly, Diana said at one point. You saved her life. If you hadn't found her that night, she would have died. I think about that all the time. How close I came to losing her forever. You saved her too, Jennifer said quietly. Your choice, hiding her where someone would find her instead of keeping her with you where he could hurt her. That took incredible courage. Diana shook her head. I don't know if it was courage or desperation. I just knew I couldn't let him get to her. That's what being a mother is, Jennifer said. Doing whatever it takes to protect your child even when it breaks your heart. They looked at each other with understanding. They were so different, had such different lives, but they shared this one precious person. They'd both saved Lily in their own ways. They'd both loved her with everything they had. As the months passed, they found a rhythm. Lily would see Diana once or twice a week, sometimes for coffee, sometimes for longer visits. Diana came to Lily's art show at school and cried when she saw her daughter's work displayed on the walls. Jennifer stood next to her and they cried together, two mothers proud of the same amazing young woman. Lily's senior year of high school was full of decisions about college. She got into several good schools, including one with an excellent art program. The choice was hers, and both Jennifer and Diana supported whatever she decided. One day, Lily asked if both her mothers could help her move into her dorm. Jennifer was touched that Lily used that word, mothers, plural. Diana looked equally moved. I'd be honored, Diana said. Me too, Jennifer added. The move-in day was emotional for everyone. Jennifer and Diana worked together carrying boxes and setting up Lily's room. They hung up her artwork, made her bed, stocked her mini fridge. They fussed over her together, making sure she had everything she needed. When it was time to say goodbye, Lily hugged both of them. Thank you, she said. Both of you. For everything. Driving home, Jennifer felt the weight of change settling over her. Lily was growing up, moving on to the next chapter of her life. But Jennifer wasn't alone in her grief. She texted Diana, who was driving back to her own place. This is harder than I expected, Jennifer wrote. Diana's response came quickly. I know, but we raised an incredible person. We should be proud. We should, Jennifer agreed. And then, surprising herself, she added, Want to get coffee next week, just us? I'd like that. Over the next year, Jennifer and Diana built their own relationship separate from Lily. They met for coffee, went to lunch, talked about their lives. They were never going to be best friends, but they became something else. Two women connected by love for the same person, by shared experience of sacrifice and fear and overwhelming love. Lily thrived in college. She called Jennifer and Diana separately, but also sometimes group called them together. She sent photos and updates. She came home for holidays, and gradually it became normal to have both Jennifer and Diana at holiday dinners. Diana's presence in their lives stopped feeling strange and started feeling right. One evening, 2 years after Diana's letter had arrived, Lily was home for Thanksgiving break. She was in the kitchen with Jennifer helping make pies. You know, Lily said, rolling out pie dough, I'm really lucky. Why's that? Jennifer asked. Most people only get one mom. I got two. I got Diana. who loved me enough to save my life even though it meant losing me. And I got you, who loved me enough to give me a life worth living. Not everyone gets that. Jennifer felt tears prickling her eyes. We're the lucky ones, sweetheart. We got you. That evening, with both Diana and Jennifer present, they went around the table saying what they were grateful for. When it was Jennifer's turn, she looked at Diana. I'm grateful for second chances, Jennifer said, and for learning that love doesn't divide, it multiplies. I'm grateful that Lily has two mothers who love her, because that means she's loved twice as much. Diana nodded, her own eyes wet. I'm grateful for Jennifer, for finding my daughter when I couldn't, for giving her everything I wanted her to have, for sharing her with me when she didn't have to. Lily looked between them and her smile was radiant. I'm grateful for both of you, for showing me that family isn't always simple, but it's always worth it. The journey hadn't been easy. There had been pain and jealousy and fear. Jennifer's heart had been broken by the truth, but it had also been expanded by it. She'd learned that being a mother wasn't about possession or exclusivity. It was about love, pure and simple. And Lily had enough love for both of them. Years later, when Lily got married, she walked down the aisle with both mothers, one on each side. People might have thought it was strange, but to them it made perfect sense. Two women who'd each saved Lily's life in their own way. Two women who'd put aside their own pain and fear to do what was best for the child they both loved. Jennifer often thought back to that cold December night when she'd heard crying in an alley. She'd thought she was rescuing an abandoned baby. She'd thought she knew the whole story. But the truth had been so much more complicated and beautiful than she could have imagined. Diana had given Lily life twice. Once at birth and once by having the courage to let her go. Jennifer had given Lily a childhood, a family, a foundation to grow from. And together, without meaning to, they'd created something neither could have done alone. They'd created a young woman who understood sacrifice and love, who knew that family could be chosen and biological and everything in between. The letter that had broken Jennifer's heart had also healed it in ways she never expected. It had taught her that love was big enough to hold hard truths. That motherhood came in many forms. That sometimes the best thing you could do for someone you loved was to share them with someone else who loved them too. Standing at Lily's wedding, watching her daughter dance with her new spouse, Jennifer caught Diana's eye across the room. Diana smiled and Jennifer smiled back. They'd come so far from that first terrible, awkward meeting. They'd built something neither of them had expected. Not quite friendship, not quite family, but something all their own. Two mothers united by love for one extraordinary person. And in that moment, Jennifer realized something profound. The story she'd told herself for 16 years about rescuing a baby hadn't been wrong exactly. It had just been incomplete. The full story was better, more complex, more beautiful than the simple version she'd believed. It was a story about two mothers, both heroes in their own dough.